Hi there, it's the great and glorious, soon to be famous, well, come off it, with 400 subscribers I'm hardly going to be the most famous person on the face of God's earth. Anyway, it's me again, Nick Dutch. This is a classic style of Nick Dutch video, and the reason I feel like I can say that is because my very early videos, I think the first one I did was on September the 19th of last year. I did under some very specific conditions, and those were, the precise time of day was bloody stupid o'clock in the morning. My precise condition was complete and utter exhaustion, and I just had a camera that was basically of even worse quality and caliber than the one that I'm doing this particular video on at the moment. So this is more or less the way I started out, but of course I've had like the 10 months worth of extra practice and experience, so hopefully I can be a little more eloquent. There's something else about this particular video which is so akin to and so close to the very early videos that I did. Namely, I'm doing this one without thinking anything through or planning anything in advance. So this is either going to be proof that I'm incredibly skilled, or indeed proof that I can't string thoughts together when put on the spot under pressure and there is a camera pointing at me. I was given a request to do a video about David Icke. I want to tackle the issue of David Icke pure and simple in a later video. It's, I would say, more dangerous for there to be a cultural movement, a media movement. I think it's probably wiser to call it a media movement, because this movement is coming out in the form of books and videos and internet broadcasts and blogs, rather than necessarily people dressing in the same manner and going to celebratory places where they celebrate David Icke and his writings or whatever. But this is a media movement which is based upon conspiracy theories and a very top-down hierarchical approach to society. So we could say that David Icke is a sociological theorist of sorts. However, his views tend to go off on a bit of a tangent. He's got a number of different ways of conveying his message. The first one is pseudo-historically, in that he claims to go back to historical writings or maybe something that came out of the Bilderberger meetings, and he talks about the people who are parts of the intellectual and financial and business elites of the world and their power and influence. And he takes this from the point of view that these individuals are genetically descended from a group of individuals who also had power over large chunks of the known world at the time, going back to ancient Egypt, ancient Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization, basically. So his idea is that the same people are running the world now as ran the world maybe a couple of millennia ago, maybe 3,500 years ago. Although there may even be a drop of truth in that, the presentations that he does not seem to be well referenced, and as such we can't state that this is necessarily a reliable source of information. We've also got to question what David Icke's intention is in providing this apparent information to us. Obviously, when you give an order to someone, there is an intention behind that. When an advert appears on television, there is an intention behind that form of communication. And it's not purely philanthropic. When there's an advert for baked beans on television, they're trying to make me buy baked beans for their benefit, not necessarily for my benefit, okay? Although we could say the media has its uses when there's some things which are advertised you actually need, such as medicines, or indeed what's being advertised as a public service broadcast, for instance. There are different reasons for messages to be promoted, whether it's via the internet, whether it's via YouTube or blogs or whether it's via television, videos and DVDs, or via books. But there's always an intention behind it. Often, and I don't know whether you've noticed this when you are in the workplace, the intention behind something that's told to you in the workplace, for instance, is not always the way it is explained to you. There's all kinds of complex dynamics that can happen there. Whenever we come across a presentation by someone who's trying to explain this or any model of the way the social, political and economic world works, we have to not only be a little skeptical of the message and of the details that they're expressing to us, that they're giving to us, but also we've got to think carefully about why this person is coming out with their information. When we think about the modern world today, information is a business, and there will always be a business aspect to any form of information that is being presented to us. The conspiracy theory market is massive, just massive, and because of that we can have some kind of doubt that David Icke and other people who are a part of this media movement necessarily have our best interests at heart when they're providing this information. Okay, next we've got to have a look at the effect that the information that's being presented to us is having and its method of delivery. When we think about David Icke doing his presentations to an audience, what do we notice? We notice a lot of energy, there's a lot of passion there. So is he trying to educate? Is David Icke actually trying to educate if he's doing so with so much energy and so much passion? No. Because the best education in the whole wide world has a certain level of objectivity, trying to see the same problem from a number of different points of view, and there isn't quite so much emotion or singularity of expression there. So David Icke's presentations are of an almost charismatic, evangelical, religious method, I suppose. I personally find that rather disturbing. I mean, I've come across similar styles of presentations in Amway, in religious groups, in which religious groups of people who basically wanted to do nasty things to me and anyone else who was mug enough to actually be in that room at that time. That's not good. But also, he's added this other dimension to his particular message, in that he's making the allegation that the people who run the world, this sort of upper echelon of society, are in fact not physically human. They are a kind of a reptilian creature. Now, we could see that by analogy and say that there is a part of the brain, the human brain, which is reptilian in nature, which would see the world in a different way, and so on and so forth. So you could say someone who's either got brain damage or is a psychopath would not have compassion and empathy for the rest of humanity. So we could take what he's talking about by analogy, but he's not expressing it as analogy, he's expressing it as facts. So we have to see that David Icke is essentially trying to make us very paranoid and very anxious about these powerful people, and the fact they haven't got our best interests at heart, and also the fact that there's actually something physically different about them, and the fact that they can shape-shift and then go and sexually abuse people. That's David Icke in a nutshell. Making people emotionally paranoid and afraid and extreme, being a part of the paranoid conspiracy movement, which is a business, and not making his explanations in a clear, true, well-referenced, intelligent light. That's what the package of David Icke seems to be. Alright, I will do more videos about him at a later stage, but I'm going to get haters for making this video, but I'm sorry, I had to explain that. Maybe we'll have a look at Michael Tesarian another day, and then of course Mr. AJ at another day. Speak to you soon.